Well, do we want to wait another minute or should we just get started?
Wendy said she would be joining us, so hopefully we'll see her here pretty quick.
Okay.
But if you want to start and she joins, I'll leave that up to you, David.
Well, let's wait another minute and then we can at least get through the preliminaries, and Wendy will probably arrive. Well, why don't we call the meeting to order and we can start. The first item of business is adjustments to the agenda. Does anyone have any adjustments that they wanted to make to the agenda? Do you have anything, Janet?
I do not. Thank you, David.
Okay, next. Next is an opportunity for public comment. And unless there's somebody sitting in the corner of the room with you, I don't think we have anybody from the public. So we can move past that. And the next item is the minutes from the November meeting. Oh, and here's Wendy. So does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Somebody want to make a motion to approve them?
I just had a quick correction. Sorry I was late. I noticed my name was spelled wrong in there, so I just didn't know if you could correct it.
Certainly. It looks like I have you right in my... Oh, I see where I went wrong. Yeah, I got it. You're somehow got you wrong in my template, so I got that. I'll fix that so it'll never be a problem again.
No worries. Thank you.
But I like,
Any other adjustments? Or could somebody make a motion to approve the minutes as
I
corrected?
will.
Hey, Rosemary
Rosemary.
has made a motion. Is there a second?
I can second Wendy.
Okay. And Wendy seconded the motion. Is there any other discussion? If not, we can vote. So all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Or you can raise your hand. Actually, I think when we meet remotely, we're supposed to raise our hands. So the minutes have been approved. Next item is old business, and this is the map change request for 4 Blackwell Street. And you may have seen a note from Janet today that the owner of the property could not make it tonight.
No, I only sent it to you, David, yesterday.
But I don't know if we want to have any further discussion about it at this point, or just wait and listen.
If you want, I can read you Mr. Boardman's email, and this is from his office manager, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation to attend the meeting regarding the map change request. Unfortunately, we have prior meeting engagements and will be unable to attend. Please accept our apologies for this conflict. We want to ensure the commission has all the information they need, so please let us know if there is an alternative way for us to address any potential questions that may arise during deliberation. We are happy to provide further clarification in writing or via a follow-up call. Thank you.
So I'm wondering if it might make sense to discuss and try to get some questions to forward to these folks and see what they have to respond. Does that make sense?
I think it does.
So I would start with, a question about, I believe that property is in the flood, it's certainly in the flood zone. Is it in the floodway?
I think we're using the floodway, actually. Let me look up. Are you guys hearing that? Okay.
Pardon?
I didn't know if that was this owl speaker here or maybe
No.
someone individually.
Yeah, I heard the noise, but I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
I was typing unmuted at one point with my notes, but I tried to mute, but I might have missed it.
So do you know if it's in the floodway or just the flood zone?
It is
Yeah.
in the floodway, David.
And what does that mean in terms of uh, things that might have to be done to that property, or whether it can be a change of use of any sort?
So if they had come in for their permits, they would have been told that they would need to make that building up to our regulation standards, which likely would mean elevating that first floor.
So that would
And
be
that,
a question to ask is, zoning aside, um, what would they be doing to mitigate the flood risk?
if they
Because
spend less than 50% of their assessed value, then they have to do things like use flood-resistant materials. But if they
yeah,
are spending a lot of money, they would have to raise that building.
yeah, just and my curiosity is, I drove by there and stopped and looked, and it struck me that there's been some work done there. So, for example, there's a heat pump that's been installed. I split heat pump that's been installed. It looks like the space may be occupied, the bottom one. I'm not positive, but it certainly looked like it may be currently occupied. So I'm just kind of curious what's going on with all that, and what what kind of work they might have done to get it already, and what they plan to do to meet the flood regulations. And I would assume even if they renovated the second floor, that would also be part of that 50% number. So there would be the entire building. But it literally sits right above the river, right at the Blackwell Street Bridge. And actually and it's on a pretty sturdy looking wall, like a lot of the river that's been channelized. But I also noted that the wall stops, and the wood and the building starts maybe 2 or 3 feet below the height of the bridge. So I don't know if there's ever been any backup, flooding, or if that's ever been a choke point uh, for backup. Because if it was, I could see that, we could have a Heartbreak Hotel a la Plainfield in Barre if that building's not properly secured or whatever. So I would just be kind of curious about that.
David, I agree. That's the very first thing I thought of when looking at this building and where it's located is, we don't want to be encouraging people to put in housing units in a way that would, potentially be a hazard for the people living there. Um, and so certainly I would like to understand what work they've done so far to mitigate those flood risks. And depending on, how much they've spent, what additional work they would be doing.
I think another question had to do with what the existing use actually has been. At one time there was a commercial operation on the first floor. I don't know if the second floor was used at all. So I don't know what kind of pre-existing uses existed, or how the planning and zoning office might interpret that. Because that would be another question. If the zoning didn't change, there might be things grandfathered as far as uses.
I can address a little bit of that. I spoke with the former owner, Mr. Rick Denty, and he said that that's always been a business. And on the second floor, there was like a small kitchenette and a bathroom, but it was where they had office for the downstairs, and I guess it was a sewing repair and something else at one point. but it was never ever used, nor was it, designed to be, any livable space. And I can see if he's willing to put that in writing, but he seemed maybe a little bit hesitant.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that I don't know what what might be grandfathered, but I would think that would be a question of when the particular zoning that's there was adopted and what was there at that time. And I think this zoning is not that old that it would be really hard to figure that out. I don't know if that's helpful.
What do you mean, that,
Well, how long has that property been zoned in a way that doesn't allow residential? Was that something
how far back?
that changed when we adopted the new zoning regulations and the new zoning maps? Because if it is, that would be a hard date to say what was there at that time. And not what was there 50 years ago or 100 years ago when it was built, but what was there when, because at that time, I think the use that was there was compliant with the zoning.
Right.
So that would be another thing to just think about. I don't know if there's other questions people might have.
I mean, I think those are the two main ones that we had already kind of discussed last time. I think to your question earlier, I think we did discuss last time what it was currently being used for, and I believe that they did already have someone living there at that time, although I'm not sure if that's still the case.
Well, as I said, when I drove by it, it certainly looked like maybe somebody's living there now,
So that's probably, yeah, so it
which
probably
is
is.
actually not conforming with the zoning because that was the sewing machine repair, sewing and
Yep.
vacuum machine, vacuum repair place for a long, long time.
And I recall that, yeah, we had talked about that last time, and that was the case then, so it sounds like it still is.
And pretty sure that the previous owner who said that was never used that way, we can look back when the sale was, because probably that got converted to an apartment sometime after the property was sold to the current owner. So that's just some thoughts. I don't think they're in compliance now, as best I can tell. Because it looks like they did some work on the building and they put it to a use that's not allowed in the current zoning. And the zoning could be a change to accommodate that, but then the concern is it's in the floodway, and is that really something that we want to do? So anyhow, that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, think, I mean, that's definitely big, especially that latter point about the floodway. Like, are they going to be prepared to do the work necessary to make it match if we are going to adjust the standards? I would also be a little cautious about, I don't know if we know the whole story about how this happened, but I think they just sort of bought the building and then started making those changes without really looking into them. And understanding that we do need housing, I also am a little hesitant to sort of want to reward people sort of like trying to skirt the rules intentionally, which I don't know for sure that's what happened, but it's definitely a possibility.
And the city is buying out some of those kinds of property in that area because of those concerns. So I guess maybe those would be the questions to convey. But as I said, it looks to me like they've spent some money doing some work on that building to make it occupied now. I think Janet will tell you that a lot of the problems that come up with zoning issues is when somebody does stuff and then asks instead of comes and checks out what's possible before, and then you kind of get a very unfortunate situation.
100%.
And and it definitely seems like that happened here. Whether or not it was sort of intentional or not is a question, but I'm not sure if that changes what we decide. But
Well, I don't know enough about the company, but it's a company that's doing this for investment and real estate management and so on. And my initial take would be That's the whole, that, they should know better.
Yeah.
That's different than an individual who decides to convert some space in their house to an apartment and doesn't know to ask. So somebody that does it as a business probably should know better. That's my editorial.
I think you're right.
Is there anything else on this, or is there anything we've missed, Janet?
Nope, I got 6 questions actually out of this little mini discussion. And if you would like, I can pose them to Mr. Boardman and his administrative person and see if we can get something back for our February meeting in 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Yep, okay. That sounds good.
You got it.
Okay, so shall we move on to new business, which is talking about the municipal plan. And even though it seems like 2028 is a while off, it's actually not very far when it comes to going through a process to rewrite the municipal plan, both in terms of front end, trying to find a consultant to help us with it and get started, and then go through a public hearing and public input, and finally an adoption process, and then send it to the regional commission. It's already getting to be a tight time frame, I think. So I think the next steps probably would be to think about a couple of things. One is what next steps would be to get a consultant lined up. Funding, I think, Janet, you said there is funding in the budget that's proposed.
That is correct.
It's not in the current budget.
No, but if we get started between, say we hire somebody and we literally get started in May or June, I've got $10,000 sitting there ready to get started. And I've asked to double that for the next fiscal year. And
So
I'm
there,
still waiting to hear on that money from the solar farm that they were going to award my department.
Yeah.
So we could potentially have everything we need over the next 2 to 3 years.
so then maybe it would not be premature to think about writing an RFP to find a consultant. 'Cause that takes a few months just from start to finish as well.
My biggest question for all of you, and some of you have been through this, David, you've been through this multiple times,
Mhm.
is we want to approach this as a brand new plan. Do you feel like we've exhausted the rewrite update, or how would you like me to approach this?
Well, in my mind, it should probably be a new plan because we've kind of been riding on this one the last time we just updated, and so at a minimum, it's probably what, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, more like 12 to 13
12,
already, yeah.
and I think our world has changed a lot since then in Barre. So I think there would be new things of emphasis looking forward. You know, a couple that I can think up of is housing, which is pretty easy, and I think economic development / grand list building would be another one. I don't know if there's infrastructure things we should be thinking about in the plan, but those are a few things that come to my mind.
I think those are all good starting points, and I would also agree that I think a new plan is appropriate, just given how much things have changed. I mean, not only is this a pretty old plan as it is, but things have changed a lot. You know, much more than they normally might in that amount of time.
But we had a flood. We've had housing challenges, and Barry's always facing a budget challenge because of the limits in the grand list and the capacity to raise property tax revenue.
I think another topic that might be really good to dive more into, and a new plan would be resiliency, especially given the flooding that we've
Mhm.
seen recently. It feels like uh, planning for how the city can be more resilient in the face of potentially future flooding
Mhm.
events.
Nope, makes sense. Janet, did you have your hand up? You have one on one of the screens. You have your hand up.
I wanted everybody to be able to speak. I just wanted to remind everyone, and for those of you who are new, that the municipal plan has 12 or 14 criteria it has to meet at the state level. That includes, as David has already said, economic development, housing, flooding, energy. There's a whole energy component to the plan. So I'm in total agreement with everybody and happy to hear that we want to start over. The other question is to think about, do we want to have a theme? If you recall, 2 plans ago, when David was on the commission, I was not here yet. There was a theme associated with this plan, and it was recognized widely throughout the state with our health pyramid.
Mhm.
So as we get a consultant and we start down that path, I want you all to be cognizant of, do we want a theme again? And what might that look like? So,
Yeah.
thank
I mean, I
you.
think it's beneficial to have that's sort of where we can make the plan different and emphasize the things that we think are the most important to the community. So not, still would be addressing everything that all the required elements, but when we addressed health, kind of every section related back to that concern. And I think we might be able to do something like that, but it would probably be a different focus than health. And it's not that health isn't important, it's just it might, would probably be a different thing. I think another thing we can probably start doing sooner rather than later is going through the existing plan, and there's a whole bunch of action things in it. And some of those things have been done, and some haven't. And some of the ones that haven't probably still should be on the list and are relevant, and there might be some things that just aren't relevant anymore. So I think that would be something we can do before a consultant comes in, is take a look at those things. And Wendy had her hand up.
I was just gonna add, regarding the theme question, thinking about resiliency, as Caitlin mentioned, I do think that, um, I feel like that's like a hot topic. You
Mhm.
hear it around a lot. I do it in my job at the state, and I just think that, that could potentially apply as the theme that we want to be more resilient as a city. And that could apply to a lot of different topic areas that we select. So that
Well,
could potentially be the theme too,
yeah. Well, it certainly applies to things like finding more housing and
right?
economic development. All those things are part of being a resilient community. So
Yeah,
that would be, that could make a lot of sense.
yeah,
Because then that's sort of the introduction to each section is to have a resilient community. We need to do this in the area of having safe and affordable housing for our residents to live in. Or we need to have resiliency. We need to have a tax base that supports those things. I mean, we can go through the list, but that's sort of how the theme might work. So, does anyone else have any thoughts to share? So, if there's not any more, then have a couple, I guess, couple things for next steps. So, one is um, maybe Janet, could you start working on RFP for a consultant and identifying who those folks might be? And I think the other one is maybe starting at the next meeting, we should be going through the plan, things that were goals or things that were going to be done, and start to identify which have been done, which haven't, and of the ones that haven't, which ones should still be carrying forward, and which ones uh, can go away. And I'm sure as we go through the actual process of building a plan, there will be new things that get added. So that might be a good start for us. So I guess
Would it be a good thing for you if I actually had the RFP in draft for our February 12th meeting? Would that help?
that would help a lot.
Okay, perfect.
So would everybody be comfortable starting to take a look at the municipal plan and looking at all those goals and objectives sorts of things, and come to the meeting prepared to just start with the first chapter, but just start going through and see how far we get. And that way we'll have a good start.
I think
So
that's a good idea.
do we have anything else, Janet, relating to the plan?
No, not until we get further down the pipeline on it.
Okay, well, I think it's great to get started. And the other thing I think we can do is think about getting different groups in the community involved in the process relatively early on. Um, that's sometimes been a challenge in the past, reaching out to, getting the police department to actually provide some input on the section that deals with public safety, or the fire department, getting the schools to actually provide some input about the portion of the plan that deals with education. I know Barre Area Development is interested in getting involved early on some of the economic development aspects of the plan. I can tell you that because I'm on the board and I've encouraged them to do that, and they seem to think that that was a good idea. So that's another thing just to think about groups we want to engage with sooner rather than later. Wendy.
I think that's a really good idea, David. It made me think, and I don't know if this is typical or not since I wasn't here the last time, but would it also be appropriate, or maybe this is also done, would we or should we reach out to some of the other committees to see if they have any input that should be included in the plan as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the extent that there's other, committees like the I don't know if the zoning board of adjustment might want to, might have some input or things that are working or aren't working. I don't know if does the city still have an energy committee, or is that restarted?
That has gone dark with there's no members.
But yes, there are other committees um, that might want to offer some thoughts or input, and we should welcome that. And it works a lot better when they get involved at the beginning of the process rather than coming in late in the game, uh, when most of the work's been done and all of a sudden bringing all this stuff up.
Right.
And that, that had been a problem in the past.
Yes. I can say that we have invited other committees to come in the past, and it's not always worked well. So all we can
And
do is ask and invite and hope that they jump on board and offer
yeah,
some good insight.
another good thing to think about is maybe inviting the city manager to come to one of our meetings before too long and get some input and thoughts from him, and also perhaps some commitment to encourage his department heads to participate. So that's another thing we might, I don't think we want to do that in February, but before too long, just have an opportunity to have a chat with him about what we're doing, what we're trying to do going forward, and see if he has any thoughts. So if that is the discussion of the municipal plan, uh, going to be a fairly short meeting, I think, but our next meeting is scheduled for February 12th. So I'm hoping that we would have a draft RFP at that point. Um, and I'm hoping I can attend that meeting because I'm going to be on vacation. So I had to look. I'm just going to look at my calendar. Excuse me a second. So I'm going to be on vacation, but I would hope I could participate by Zoom. But just as a heads up. And so we would with any luck have an RFP draft to look at and start going through the plan to identify things we've accomplished and not accomplished and so on.
Yes, and including our old business continuation.
Yes, yep, that's going to
We'll
continue.
have a pretty good agenda for the 12th.
Okay. Uh, Next on the agenda is staff updates. Do you have anything, Janet,
In
to offer?
addition to what I shared with all of you, thanks, David. No, there's just a lot, going along. We're in the midst of working on budgets at the staff level. Buyouts are continuing. I was on the phone, Nicholas and I were on the phone with the Vermont Emergency Management yesterday about our commercial sites that have applied for buyouts. That would be David Ayers' 3 big properties and the Desero Machine property. Those are taking longer than obviously the residential properties. But we have, like I said, we've bought nine, and another one is being purchased on River Street right before Nicholas leaves for vacation next month. So FEMA has actually kind of come out of the woodworks, and they have issued what's called an RFI, request for information, for some of the properties that we applied for but we never heard about. So for example, I don't know if you recall, of the 27 buyouts that we've got on the books, 3 have never been funded or even acknowledged because of what happened with FEMA over a year ago. So they're starting to pick up where they left off literally a year ago. So I've got to get some new forms from those property owners, and I think it's exciting that they're actually picking things up. Money's got to get spent. Vermont Emergency Management is very hopeful. So along with the CBDGDR money that the city has applied for, I think we stand to be in a good place to do some really good flood mitigation in the next 2 to 5 years.
Well, that's good news. Is there any, I know with the Prospect Heights project that there's an RFP, I think, that was out to try to find developers to meet some of the state grant requirements. Are you involved in that, and is it progressing?
No, I'm not. Actually, they were here yesterday. Josh needed help setting up the room, and I kind of look like a deer in the headlights. But he and Nicholas, so Barre Area Development's executive director and the city manager, hosted an opportunity for potential developers to come in and ask any questions, and nobody came.
Okay,
But there was the opportunity, so
yeah,
I believe that the executive director, Josh Jerome, has been getting questions individually via email and maybe even over phone, so that's what I know of the process to date.
okay. So anything else, or is that the staff report?
Yeah, that's the staff report.
Okay, so that brings us to roundtable. So this is an opportunity for commissioners to offer any comments or commentary they might want. So I don't know if anybody has anything. Wendy?
I just noticed in the staff updates you mentioned our positions on the committee, and Janet, you had asked if we could let you know. So I do intend on hopefully continuing after May. So I guess a question on that. So do we just need to fill out the application again?
I think that that's what Nicholas's office has done in the past.
Okay.
So Nicholas's executive assistant is retiring. She's part-time now, and when he comes back from Australia at the beginning of March, she will be gone. But I believe, Wendy, the process is because you're not a new volunteer, you're gonna look for a new term, that, I don't even think that they bring you in front of city council at that point. But you will
Okay.
have to fill out the form and submit it to Nicholas's office. And as we
Okay.
get closer to May, I will remind whoever needs to be notified that their terms are ending, and now's the time to really make a decision.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for roundtable? Well, if not, I do have one item I wanted to bring up. And I wanted to let you know that we do have a celebrity, an award-winning celebrity in our midst. He and his group won second place in Barry's Worst Song competition. So you should give a hearty applause for Joe.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
a fine show. And I don't know if there's anything else, but if not, I'll say just for your sake, Joe, it's closing time.
Oh gosh, yep.
That was the song that he sang. And I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I was hoping for a little backstory on that.
Yeah, how about a little story?
I can fill in briefly. I guess I'll take that as my roundtable. So there's an annual event in Barre called the Worst Song Ever. It's been going for 15 or 16 years, although there was I think a 2 or 3 year break around COVID. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. People just kind of come together and play songs they think are bad for whatever reason. And then it's sort of a loose contest, although it's more about the fun of it. And in the past, I had participated with a friend of mine whose name is also Joe, and we play as Joe Force. So in that duo, I play guitar and he sings. He wasn't available this year, so I decided to do something on my own. And because one of the things I've been working on for music is I've been working on my singing, I decided I would take that part. So I sang the song and had another friend of mine playing guitar. We did Closing Time by Semisonic, which I'm sure everybody knows because it's one of those songs. And we just sort of played up the bar angle. We had my partner Erica and our friend Steven, who were kind of acting like rowdy drunks, and I was kind of singing the song and pretending to be upset with them, and and all that. And it was a lot of fun. So as far as the event in general goes, I would also recommend anybody who's at all interested, check it out. It's a really cool event. It started in Barre. It's been continuing in Barre this last year. It's kind of moved through events. It started off at the Espresso Bueno. Or no, actually, I think the first couple were actually at maybe someplace in the Sidewalk Village. But for a while, it was an Espresso Bueno. It eventually moved to the Labor Hall as it got a little bit bigger. And then as it outgrew the Labor Hall, it was at the Canadian Club for a few years and outgrew the Canadian Club. This last year, they moved it to the Barre Opera House, where it nearly sold out. It didn't quite sell out, but it was very close. It did well enough that it's going to continue there. So again, it's just a kind of a cool Barre event that's homegrown here and has grown up here, and and it's always a lot of fun. It's just really cool to be a part of it, and we had a lot of fun putting our song together. And it's always nice to win something, but it's also again just for the fun of it, really.
Well, it was certainly fun to attend, and my wife and I have been several times, but it's worth trying to get to it.
Yeah,
It's
always good.
Very, very local thing.
Yep.
And you probably know some of the people performing, and you certainly will see people in the audience, So it's a real local thing, and it's a lot of fun. So congratulations, Joe.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And the whole thing was fun. There was a lot of great acts. I was really honored that we actually came away with one of the trophies because there was a lot of really good performers that night.
Maybe you should tell them what the trophy is.
Oh, gosh. So the trophy is actually a toilet seat. And there's 3 of them. So number 1, number 2, and number 3. You can sort of imagine from there. So number one is kind of this painted in this kind of gold sparkly paint. Number two, of course, is brown sparkly paint, and number three is some weird combination of colors. And on the back of each one, so the winners get to hold the trophy for the year. So I have this currently hanging over my kitchen sink. And then so next year, of course, we'll give it up for the next winner. One cool thing about it that I didn't actually realize until I saw it close up was on the back of it is sort of written the winners of each year. So it's kind of a cool little history, seeing like who won each year and what they were playing and everything. So
It's like the Stanley Cup. There's
Yeah.
only one
Yep.
trophy per
Yep.
position.
yeah.
Cool.
So it's if anyone's ever curious, check it out. It is every November, the weekend before Thanksgiving, whatever that comes out to. And I would definitely recommend anybody who's at all interested. It's a really fun event. And again, it's just a cool part. It's just a cool Barre thing because it grew up here and it continues to be here.
Okay, well, I think with that, would be willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that.
Okay, Joe's moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second Wendy.
Okay, Wendy seconded, and Caitlin also. So I think all in favor of adjourning, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. We'll see you in February, and we've got some work to do.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Janet.